Hello, Empowered Woman. Welcome to this episode of the Empowered Woman podcast. Today, we're continuing on with the Empowered Woman Book and Path series, where I'm interviewing several women who have read my book and also left a review on Amazon, where I outline the 5 steps on the Empowered Woman path. And we're going to be talking about the 5 steps, as well as have these amazing women share their personal empowered path to success in life and business. Today's guest is Krista Resnick. She is a master coach and boundary expert podcaster who helps empower women to stop people pleasing and come back home to themselves so they can create lives and relationships that are purposeful and passion fueled. Let's dive in. Welcome back to the Empowered Woman podcast, the #1 show on personal growth, visibility, and profit for women entrepreneurs. If you're wanting to start believing in yourself, giving yourself permission to succeed, and let your voice be heard to make an impact in the world as an entrepreneur, this is the place for you. I am so glad that you're here. My name is Marta Spurk, and I'm your host, triplet mom, woman empowerment coach, and all things motivation extraordinaire. Welcome again, and let's dive into today's episode. Hi, Krista. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for being willing to have me on. I'm excited to talk about your book.
Yes, I am so excited as well to talk about the book and to talk about you. So before we jump in, so obviously let me tell everybody this is part of the Empowered Woman book / path series. We're talking about the specific 5 steps that I outline in my book, which are part of the Empowered Woman path, but also about the amazing women that are coming on the show to share about their business and what they're doing that is amazing in the world. So before we get started with the steps, I would love for you to share with us who you are and what you do.
Well, I am Krista Resnick, and I am a master certified life coach who really kind of specializes. I like to call myself a boundary expert, because one of the things I know to be true is that unless we're willing to really stand in the discomfort of claiming what it is we want, claiming what it is we need, what it is we desire, and really put healthy, beautiful parameters around those things, we will never really lean into what it is that our higher self is being called into. So I help women really uncover, a lot of times it goes back to even who they are, right? Because so much of us just gets covered up by these parts that run the show, these parts that want to acquiesce, these parts of us that want to people please, these parts of us that lean into codependency, these parts of us that want to play that perfectionistic role. I mean, we have tons of parts. I don't need to list them all, but those are just a few, right? And so it's really uncovering, who are you at your core? What do you want? What do you need? And learning how to work not only from the mindset level, but actually get into the body, right? Like actually start to recognize some of those somatic cues so that you can build out the healthy nervous system to stand in the discomfort of claiming your truth and asking what it is you want and crave. That was a long explanation, but
no, this is perfect. I was nodding the entire time and just really soaking in the gratitude of the amazing women that I have attracted into my world, and especially the women that have said yes to the opportunity of being a part of this series, because every single one, obviously, it has been so unique, but it has combined beautifully with the message of my book, with the things that I believe in. So I know that it's no coincidence that the women that have said yes so far are the right women for me to be having these conversations with. Obviously there are no coincidences, but I love this so much, standing in the discomfort and how that has everything to do with those boundaries. But, we hear so much these buzzwords, right, of the boundaries and all of that stuff. How do you actually implement these things? And it has to do with going into this journey that never ends of self-awareness. You have to understand what because my boundaries will probably be very different from your boundaries and so forth, depending on what we've got going on, our personalities, our life history. So it is a very, very personal journey. So I'm very grateful that you're guiding women through that and incorporating also the somatic stuff, the body stuff, which we tend to be so much in our heads. I'm one of those people, very, very mental. And forget that we're not just that. There's so much more that comes into play, and we need to listen to that. So let's get started with our first step, noticing yourself. I feel like we've already started, even though we didn't start. But I would love for you to, I guess, get more in depth into this idea of getting to know who you are to be able to start this work of boundaries.
Oh gosh. Yeah. A lot of women come to me and they don't really know, they have the old, I've lost myself, which again, and you lay this out so beautifully in the book. It starts in childhood.
Yeah.
It starts in childhood. When we didn't get caregivers or parents and it's not always to blame parents or caregivers because we're not victims, but it is to notice, as you mentioned, where did some of these patterns of acquiescing, not speaking our truth, not being willing to come forward and claim what's ours, own our wisdom, as you like to say, speak our truth, shine our light. Where did some of those limiting beliefs and misunderstandings come from? And then we lean into those patterns. For me, I always go back to the story of when I was in first grade. And there were stories in fifth grade too, but I'm sorry, I'm getting all tangled up. It was kindergarten. Tongue-tied here. It is Monday as we record this. So it was kindergarten, and each student had to go up to the blackboard to write whatever letter was assigned to us. We were learning how to write. And my letter was letter G. And for whatever reason, I got up to the blackboard and I just struggled to write the letter G. Now, up until this point, I loved school. I loved learning. I loved being with my peers. I absolutely loved school. But in that moment, as I was struggling to write out my G, my teacher became very frustrated, very angry for whatever reasons, probably had nothing to do with me.
Right.
Who knows what kind of argument she got into with her partner that morning or the lack of sleep she got, whatever. But in that moment, she took her hand and slapped my hand very, very hard. And I felt such shame. I didn't have that word at 5 years old.
Right.
I didn't know the word shame, but it was embarrassment. It was humiliation. I can remember the somatic symptoms. I remember the lump in the throat. I remember the tears formulating behind my eyes. I remember the flushness of my cheeks. I remember it all. And in that moment, I kind of looked around and I went, okay, nobody else is getting hit. What's wrong with me? Why am I so stupid? How come I'm not smart like Alice, who sits next to me? She didn't get slapped. And that's where so many of the disconnecting moments happen, on top of the fact that, I wasn't really raised in a household where I could go home and unpack that with somebody who really attuned to me, that said, sweetheart, it wasn't okay that teacher did that to you. And you know what? We're going to go in and we're going to have a conversation with her tomorrow. But right now, what are you feeling? And I'm so sorry that happened to you. And I see how sad you are. Let's unpack this. I didn't have that. So it was just shove it under the rug. Life goes on, put your big girl pants on and move on down the road. So from those experiences, we lean into all of these different patterns, behaviors, habits, parts, whatever you want to call them, that aren't really our true selves. So we end up living life for everybody else, not really knowing who we are at the core.
Oh my gosh, this is huge. And I think all of it, I can resonate with it so much. And I think many people listening will be thinking, what was my moment, right? What was one of my moments, or maybe the earliest one that I can remember, because there are those that really have marked us. And then as we start going through this journey, we start recognizing, wow, it started back then. The feelings that now I have in certain interactions or whatever, when I see things that trigger me, it started back then. And what did it for me was I didn't have the space or the support to go home and unpack that. So let's move into the listening portion, the listen to yourself, because I feel like that is a huge, segue into, okay, we just noticed that. And then let's listen to these things that we have been telling ourselves as a result of all of that. Once you're able to pinpoint those things, because then they continue. The moment may have died there, but the self-talk and all of that continues on. So Tell me more.
Yeah, what we're really doing in those moments is, with those patterns, habits, behaviors, is we are looking to seek safety. Safety is our number one. We all want to feel safe, emotionally safe, financially safe, relationship safety. We're all looking for that felt sense of safety. And typically what we will do is we will use control and or approval to create that felt sense of safety. Now, I and most people that I coach actually use both control.
I was going to say, I've used both.
Yeah, I exactly. So I was really heavy in the approval department. Like, who do you need me to be? Yeah. Oh, who do you need me to be? Oh, you need me to be that girl? Totally. Got it. You need me to sign up for that? Totally. Got it. Right. And so we just think that we are people pleasers, that we are perfectionists, that we are whatever. And I'm here to say you're not any of those things. They're just simply a part of you that we get to notice at some point, when we step into this work, whatever your noticing moment is, and really learn how to communicate with these parts of ourselves, give ourselves these parts and really the inner child, whatever it is that it needs so that it can partner with you and create a life that really feels good to you.
That's so good. Let's get into the forgiveness. You already told me before we started recording that was your favorite. And I always say that's my favorite. All of them are my favorite. Obviously the empowering one is a favorite because I talk so much about empowerment, but there really is no empowerment without the forgiveness piece. That's why it comes first in the order. So tell us more how that's been so important for your journey and also what you guide your clients to.
Huge. People have such misunderstandings around what forgiveness actually is. And it's not anything to do necessarily with the other person.
Right.
It's about forgiving yourself for the misunderstandings and the judgments, the things that you made those experiences mean about yourself. So when I was probably, 7 or 8, my mom was going to a workshop and she was going to drop me off at a childcare provider's home. And the childcare provider was going to be watching all of us little girls whose moms signed up for the workshop. So I'm excited, right? I love people. This is going to be great. I'm going to make so many friends. They didn't feel that same way about me. I was not welcomed with open arms. I was bullied, picked on, made fun of, put down the entire day. As a result, I started to buy into so many limiting beliefs, so many misunderstandings about myself. You're not good enough. You're not one of the cool kids. People don't like you. You don't matter. Nobody wants to be around you. And so I had to go back and forgive myself for buying into so many of those limiting beliefs because they were in my subconscious running the show. So every time I would sit down to create an email for my business or to create a boundary or anything in my life, there's that, that story playing out. Nobody wants to listen to you. They don't want to hear what you have to say. Are you kidding? You're not even smart enough. You got slapped on the hand in kindergarten, right? So that part of my journey, and I know for my clients as well, it is powerful, really, really powerful.
Oh my gosh, that's huge. And I love how you described it because at times you say, forgive yourself and it could just go in one ear out the other. Sure, I'll forgive myself, but for what? And then what you just said, your misrepresentation or misinterpretation of something as a child with very limited information and understanding of the world, obviously that would have happened, but I feel like that was huge, like forgiving yourself for seeing things a certain way. And now as an adult, being empowered to realize I could choose to assign a different meaning to that because I am more in control than I was then. So that is huge. And with that, let's talk about empowerment. I would love for you to share some of your biggest accomplishments in this journey. And then after that, in the transformation piece, I want you to share about your clients too.
Well, gosh, there's been 3 things really. Raising 3 wild prairie chicken children. I call them adultish, 23, 20, and 18. And they've taught me so much about my relationship with me.
Yeah.
Being in a partnership for, what has it been? 27, 28 years. There again, like we can talk about all of this stuff all day long, but it's really so often inside our relationships and inside our businesses where the rubber meets the road. Relationships they're our biggest wounding, and they can be our biggest healing.
Yeah. Oh, that was so good.
Yeah. Yeah. And then of course becoming an entrepreneur, I mean, talk about caging myself in, right? Like I always think about, the bars on a prison cell, or even like some sort of a bird cage or something, and how I literally like caged myself in bar by bar. What will people think of me? Right? Will anyone listen to you? Do you have anything worth sharing? You sound like a moron. Like who wants to listen to you? Right? Fear of rejection, and I built myself in bar by bar by bar. And so entrepreneurship has really just pushed my edges out in every way you could imagine. But I never stopped. Like there was something in me that said, you've got this. Like this was what you were born and created to do. And I just kept allowing, I was doing so much of the deeper work that you talk about in your book.
Yeah.
We have to stop putting Band-Aids on bullet holes.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say it. We do. We have to start doing this deeper work that you talk about in your book so that we can continue to move forward and create lives, businesses, relationships that we crave. So it was doing that deeper healing work in tandem with what would your higher self do in this moment?
Yeah.
What would she say is a priority? Oh, she wouldn't say what those people down the road have to say about you is a priority. She doesn't think that's a priority. Cool. What does she say is a priority, right? We're going to listen to what she says is a priority, your future self, your highest self, whatever you want to call it. So that's really what's helped me to, and along with the somatic work, I'm not going to lie. Like I was literally a big walking head because that's how I got so much approval was telling people what I knew, right? How smart I was. Like, I know all these things. This is why you should listen to me, right? And it was like I was this big walking head. And meanwhile, there was this body that I literally was not tapped into at all. And so it was one of my master coaches one day that asked me, it's a wonderful mentor. He said, well, what do you feel in your body? And I'm like, I feel my heartbeat. What are you talking about? Am I supposed to be feeling something? Right? So it was when I started to really work with my nervous system and build out my window of tolerance, or as I prefer to call it, my window of capacity to hold uncomfortable conversations, right? To hold conflict without acquiescing. So combination of a lot of things, but it's really about doing that deep inner work, whatever that looks like for you, in tandem with where is my higher self calling me into or forward.
Yeah. Oh, this is so good. Because we can talk about, what are your achievements or what are the things that you're proud of? And in order to make it tangible, we can talk about our kids, which that's huge. We can talk about our, relationships. I love what you said, that relationships can be the biggest wounding, but it can also be the biggest healing. I mean, it's really two sides of the same coin that is huge. But at the end of the day, what you said that, these challenges, especially the kids, which I totally resonate, is
I knew you would.
Right. What's taught me the most about myself. I feel like that should be like the bar. Right. For us to be like, how self-aware are you? How much do you know yourself? How much more have you been able to put yourself in uncomfortable situations, have those difficult conversations? I mean, that's how you're gauging your achievements, right? That should be it for, the world out there, for society. But I think we've come a long way, especially because I live in this world of personal development. So this is what I live and breathe. So I'm very happy that I think more and more people are becoming more aware. Obviously, we have a long ways to go. But I mean, it's been amazing in the last 6 years that I've been doing this to see how many people have been transformed. And on that note, tell us more about how specifically you work with clients and some specific stories of people that have transformed and that you've been a part of it, guiding them through it?
I love that question. And I think to summarize, two of the clients that are coming to mind right off the top of my head, it was such an honor to have them work with me for an extended period of time. And I think such a beautiful testament is leaving corporate careers where they felt as if their soul was dying and becoming really powerful coaches themselves. Like that to me is like, oh, this work is so juicy and so beautiful that now they want to stand in their power and teach other people and coach other people to embody their truth and to advocate for themselves and to create lives, careers that they love. So those are just a couple of clients that come to mind immediately. So many of my clients, and I work with a broad spectrum. Like I don't work with just corporate or just these certain types of people. I have everyone from stay-at-home mom to nurse practitioner, to entrepreneurs, to powerful CEOs, but they're recognizing something's missing. Like I've got the BMW. I wrote the book. I've got 352 PhDs, right? Like I have every Louboutin known to man. Something's not right.
Yeah.
Something's off. Right. And here's where I get to play with, boundaries is kind of that like entry level thing that people come to me for. And it's so much deeper. It's so much more, we can read the cute memes on social media. Just say no. Well, that's nice, but that's just not how it fleshes out for most people. Right. Because there's this pattern, there's this part that wants to be liked. Again, our survival literally has depended upon feeling safe, feeling part of the posse, feeling part of the hive, the tribe, the community, the collective, whatever you want to call it. And so here's where we get to take a deeper look and go back into childhood and say, okay, what were some of the unmet needs of your inner child? Because those are what's wreaking havoc on your adult life. Always. Always. So we get to look at that. We get to look at nervous system, like what's happening there. We get to look at somatically what's happening in the body, all of those deeper things that really leads people to ultimately end up standing for themselves in their marriages. I've had women that have come to me that they came to me because they wanted to leave their marriage. And by the end of our coaching contract, they're like, no, I'm staying, because now they're advocating. Like they just thought getting out of the marriage was the answer. And I'm not saying it is or isn't, right? Like to be determined. But the decision they made at the end of the contract was, I'm staying because now I'm advocating for myself, and he's responding, right? Where before it was like this victim-y, childlike type behavior, right? And no judgment around that. When you've had your own parents leave you and when you're 14 years old and you have to fend for your brother and sister. And of course, you're probably going to then attract somebody at 18, 19, 20 that isn't necessarily, at 30 or 40 who you would choose.
Yeah.
But they were willing to stay and do the hard work, which I think is something to celebrate massively.
Oh my gosh, this is huge. I love that. And again, choosing that discomfort, like you're saying, they were ready to leave because they would think, and obviously case by case, no overgeneralizations, but oftentimes it is easier to run away than to actually, how can I stay in this uncomfortable situation and uncover things about myself that I'm not ready to see, that I don't want to see.
Yes.
Right.
Exactly.
And stay in that victim mentality. That is huge. Exactly. And that is complete opposite of what an empowered woman would do.
Yeah.
So with that, what I've been asking ladies at the end of as we wrap up, just to throw it out there and see what comes up. What is an empowered woman then, Krista?
Oh, wow. That is a beautiful and rich and deep, nuanced question. What is an empowered woman? I think an empowered woman, I gotta chew on this. I'm going to marinate on this for a moment. I want to speak slow so that I can really not nail this in terms of like getting it right.
Right.
But it's such a good, juicy question. An empowered woman has to first and foremost really know who she is.
Mm-hmm.
She has to know what she stands for and what she values.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, I mean, that's just, to me, that's a no-brainer. She has to know who she is. She has to know what she stands for. And she has to be willing to advocate for herself. Yeah. I mean, you can know who you are and what you stand for, but still not be willing to advocate for yourself and speak for yourself, express your truth. Mm-hmm. So to me, that's really, and express your truth. Like, we could do a whole podcast on that. Oh, yeah. Because, there's a lot of women out there that are, I'm just speaking my truth. I'm just speaking my truth. Well, if you haven't really done a lot of the deep healing work, mm-hmm. oftentimes what you're actually saying is you're just projecting your stuff onto other people. Yeah. And then you're slapping the label of, I'm just speaking my truth. Right. I think speaking your truth is really about coming from this place of clarity and kindness and compassion and conviction. Right. This is who I am. This is what I stand for. And if you don't like that, be well. Yeah. Be well. I'm not even going to apologize. I'm not even going to say, well, I'm sorry, because I'm not. Right. I'm just going to say, be well. Mm-hmm. You're probably not going to be in my collective or my community. Yeah. But I still wish you well.
Totally. And that's totally okay. I love that. Oh, that's so good. You did a great job. Not that I was grading, but I love the answer.
Yeah. Awesome. Good.
Thank you so much. This was so wonderful. Tell us how people can connect with you, find out about the way you work with clients and all that good stuff. And I'll make sure and add all the links to the show notes too.
Yeah. I think I'm on all the social places, but the easiest place is just to go to my website, www.KristaResnick.com.
That's super easy. They will find you because this was so good. Yeah. Thank you so much. I so appreciate you. Thanks so much for tuning in today. I've been having so much fun with this series. I would love to hear your feedback. Have you enjoyed listening from these amazing women as we walk through the 5 steps and then hear more about their journey? And most importantly, are you an empowered woman who has read my book and would love to come and share your thoughts on the 5 steps and also share your story? Then let me know. Reach out to me at contact@martaswork.com. Send me an email. Let me know, hey, I've read your book. I've left a review on Amazon, and I would love to come and chat with you on the podcast. Keeping in mind that this is a pretty big show. I don't talk much about it, I guess, but it's actually top 0.5% podcast all over the world on the entrepreneurship and self-improvement category. So if you have any interest in being on and being put in front of the list, so to speak, reach out to me and I'll get you on. Don't forget to connect with Krista. All the links are in the show notes. Until next time, bye.